We live in a period in which it's characterized by growing inequality, growth models which marginalize the majority in many, many countries. In the United States, you talk about the 1% or the 0.1% versus the rest. In other countries, those numbers are slightly different, but they still reflect in many ways the growing inequality in many parts of the world. It is also a world in which the power and wealth of the few is felt in many respects, in many spheres of our life, and the increasing disregard for the well-being of citizens, particularly in areas where austerity measures seem to be taking the center stage in economic strategies and policies that are being implemented. Questions today are being asked about the contribution of new technologies to greater joblessness in the quest for higher levels of productivity. In particular, it's a challenge that we have in South Africa, where we have a 50% level of unemployment amongst young people, and a set of numbers that we seem to share with countries like Spain at the moment, the hopelessness that is experienced by unemployed youth in our environment. We also live in a period where, if you like, a new geoeconomics is beginning to emerge and reflects a changing balance, both economically speaking and politically speaking. The financial crisis has raised some serious questions about both the, if you like, width and depth of the financial sector and the influence that it has on our economies, both in the African context, but more particularly in the advanced economies, and the consequences that we face as a result of some of the failures that we've seen in recent times. I take an approach which says it's very important to work with researchers and academics and inquirers, if you like, to understand the world, but the greater imperative for many of us is to answer the question, how do we change it, and how do we improve it for the larger majority that live in our environment. When one thinks of poverty, inequality, and a lack of opportunities for our citizens, there's a growing sense that we are moving towards greater economic injustice as opposed to economic justice. And I want to quote Amartya Sen in this regard when he says, "What tends to inflame the minds of suffering humanity cannot but be of immediate interest both to policy making and to the diagnosis of injustice. A sense of economic injustice must be examined, even if it turns out to be erroneously based, and it must, of course, be thoroughly pursued if it is well-founded." Sen goes on to say that, and I quote again, "We have to go through doubts, questions, arguments, and scrutiny to move towards conclusions about whether and how justice can be advanced," end of quote. Ultimately, I believe, research and inquiry must take us onto a better path, in a very active sense, from the one that we are traversing today.